Last week, in a move that finally made Bryn Gatland his dad's favourite player, Wales captain and Romano's muscly claymation man Sam Warburton announced his retirement from rugby at age just 29. I know I speak for literally every Wales fan when I say this announcement hit me like a bereavement, prompting scenes in South Wales that looked a bit like this, except in a country that Benty and Johnny May never sorted out. Now, I've wanted to make a video on Sam Warburton for as long as I've been doing this channel, but I never thought these would be the circumstances under which I'd make it, with him faking his retirement in order to lull other teams into a false sense of security ahead of the Rugby World Cup next year. For me, Sam Warburton was amongst the best players in the world and possibly the best player in Europe. And yet, since he decided last week to stop hitting big men for a living, a bizarre debate has cropped up. Now, if I made a video of every bullshit negative treacle-brained opinion Stuart Barnes holds, I'd be uploading about 83 videos a day, half of them defending modern fashion or trying to explain why kids like Xboxers. But this is an exception, because Sam Warburton was an exceptional player. Warburton won his first cap for Wales in 2009. Inside a year, he'd usurped his childhood hero Martin Williams, and inside 2 he'd been named Wales captain, leading into a World Cup campaign that should have been his moment of crowning glory, only to be ruined by French conspirator Alan Roland, a referee who looks a bit like a Fringe Father Ted character that yells, "You'll go to hell for that!" every time anyone smiles during mass, and he carried that level of warmth and compassion with him into his refereeing. So what made Warburton so good? He was a phenomenal tackler, his carrying was strong, his hands hugely underrated, but Warburton's real speciality was the breakdown. A facet of the game he genuinely understood in the way that us fans and pundits only ever pretend to. In order to fully appreciate what Warburton brought to a team, let's first look at how they got on without him, when Warren Gatland left him on the bench for the first 54 minutes of the first test against the All Blacks last year. Pay particular attention to New Zealand's attack. The All Blacks went into the series knowing the Lions wouldn't miss many tackles, so instead they'd need to manipulate the defence rather than just bamboozle it by being good. So each time they form a ruck, the ball is out of there quicker than a seal had just spotted Andrew Hoare on the horizon. Their ball is incredibly fast, and this allows them to control the way they attack. Because the All Blacks were coming at them so fast, the Lions become a bit like Theresa May watching her cabinet resign one by one. They're tired, and they're forced to just fill gaps with whoever's there, rather than the best person for the job. This allowed the All Blacks to work mismatches, pitting fast against slow, big against small, Bowden Barrett against humans. They made 554 metres on attack, well over the 300-ish average for a test match. So let's contrast this instead to the first attack after Warburton came on. Suddenly it's taken the All Blacks 3 times as long to move to the next phase, the ball lingering around Lions longer than Scott Baldwin's hand. So what's actually happening here? When you describe a player as being great at the breakdown, the natural assumption is they produce more turnovers than the record label that put out this live album by a Japanese recording artist I've never heard of. But whilst Warburton did nick plenty of ball, his real specialism was deliberately slowing down the speed at which the opposition could use their ball. Here, if Warburton was looking to realistically steal a ball, he'd be positioning himself centrally. But because he knows his chances are slim, instead he adapts his body position, making his back a target. His chance of stealing the ball is lesser, but it will require multiple All Blacks to clear him out, committing themselves to the ruck and taking themselves out of the game, meaning they can't be options in the next attack. He also knows exactly when and when not to compete. Here we see Warburton rush between 3 breakdowns, 2 of which he slows down. However, the other one he gives up on early. Because the All Blacks know what a threat he is over the ball, you see multiple players spot him and step in to get him out of there. The moment Warburton realises this, he ceases to compete, stepping out voluntarily so he can be more effective at the next breakdown instead. Contrast this to Sean O'Brien, who goes in every time to steal, not slow, and stayed committed to a lost cause in a way I've only previously seen from Dragon supporters. For me, O'Brien's performance actually improved a great deal in the second and third test when Warburton was brought in, as it allowed him to focus on his strengths, namely tackling, carrying and having weird pseudo-racist conversations with Anthony Watson.
You need to put someone like me in there.
No.
Huh?
You're not black.
What do you mean?
You're not black, though.
Either are you.
I'm very black.
Well, you're not really.
So how does slowing down the opposition ball actually impact a match? Imagine rugby as a game of breakout. The ball is the attack, the defence is the paddle, the attack is trying to beat the defence and cross the try line at the bottom of the screen. Anytime the ball hits the top and bounces, that's a breakdown. Normally, a defence playing the All Blacks is like trying to deal with this. Relentless in a way that means even the best defenders can't keep up forever. But with Warburton on the pitch in the second and third tests, it's like the ball slowed, even paused completely when it hit the top, giving the paddle time to move into position. By effectively slowing ruck ball, Warburton gave his team time to set themselves and get in position to hit the ball back properly. And because they were forced to operate slower, the All Blacks no longer had the same control over the match. This led to them kicking away more ball and passing what a mid-noughties TV host would call a whopping 113 times fewer. However, it also reduced the number of times you need to hit the ball back at all. Warburton averaged about 9 tackles a game, but having him on the pitch actually meant his side usually had to make dramatically lower numbers of tackles. In the first test, New Zealand went for 131 phases. Despite having the same percentage of possession in both games, in the second, the Lions only had to defend 78 phases, 53 fewer than the previous match. Let's think about that. Largely thanks to Warburton, the Lions had to make 53 fewer tackles. In 2 games that came down to the last 10 minutes, that reduction in work rate makes a huge impact. A few times during the tour, I saw social media declare, "Oh, Warburton's having a quiet game." But people were not noticing him because he was playing incredibly well. People who didn't rate Warburton's performance weren't watching for it. It's a bit like saying a prop was rubbish because you popped out the room for a shit every time they had a scrum. I accept there's more factors at play in the lower ruck count, and it's impossible to say for certain, but I can't see the Lions having drawn the series if Warburton was relegated to the bench for all 3 games. And moving beyond that tour, there was so much more to his breakdown game than just slowing the ball down. Warburton read the breakdown better than anyone else in the Northern Hemisphere. He was incredibly intelligent, identifying things in milliseconds that others wouldn't get in slow motion clips of freeze frames and captions. Whilst Wales have plenty of options to fill a now vacant 7 chair like Justin Tipuric, James Davis, Alice Jenkins, Josh Navidi, Ollie Griffith, they have nobody with his combination of incredible physicality and innate understanding of all that off-putting bullshit that goes on right after a tackle. Here, as Mike Brown goes to ground, Warburton identifies right away that the ball is vulnerable and there's a chance for a turnover, but he also knows that Gethin Jenkins is in better position to steal it. So instead of looking to lock onto the ball, Warburton puts one arm around Jenkins and goes for the ball with the other. By giving him his weight, Warburton makes it all the harder for England to clear out Jenkins, but by competing with his second arm, he forces England to clear him out as well as the chunky grumpy DJ to his side. He then positions his body to make it as difficult as possible for any England players to get to Jenkins. It's tiny, it's rapid, it's probably confusing, but it's vital and it leads to the penalty that wins Wales the game and knocks England out of their own World Cup. Here he bides his time, knowing the chaos caused by a teammate will create an opportunity to steal a ball, and steal it he does. And here, he's in a great position to win a turnover, but he doesn't settle for that. Instead of just stealing the ball, he uses his time and position to prevent Ireland having any legal means of using their ball, meaning that it wins Wales a penalty. Because his instincts were so quick and his understanding so comprehensive, it allowed him to maintain incredible discipline on the field. And genuine squeaky clean discipline, unlike a McCaw or Martin who just specialise in getting away with it. Over his 302 games of professional and semi-professional rugby, Warburton received just 3 cards of either colour, and one was possibly the most contentious card in Rugby World Cup history. He would concede on average just 1 penalty every 3rd game. He's an open side flanker. Most of them are born cheating, entering the cot from the side and high-tackling the midwife. And the fact he was so rarely penalised is a big factor in the thing that made Sam Warburton the best captain Test rugby seen since Richard McCaw hung up his invisibility cloak 3 years ago. In many sports, the captain is a nominal position only. They're a figurehead with no actual external role. In rugby, however, the captain is different to the other 14 players in one respect. They're the only player on the pitch who is allowed to talk back to the referee, and Sam Warburton was the best player in the world at talking to the referee. It's tempting for a captain to abuse this power, to question every decision and nag at them if something doesn't go their way, but Warburton was always polite, respectful, and waited for his moments. If he felt a decision was controversial, he wouldn't complain, he'd ask for clarification. By making a ref explain themselves, it cemented the decision in their subconscious, demanding they stay consistent. Even though he was essentially manipulating them, Warburton became incredibly well liked and incredibly well respected by referees, to the point they would actively listen to him, leading to one of the greatest bits of captaincy you'll ever see in what proved to be his final action on a rugby pitch. Warburton remarkably managed to talk referee and comedy Frenchman Romain Poit down from what would be a series-winning penalty to a scrum that the Lions were able to defend. He doesn't rush in, get angry, scream, shout. Instead, he waits until Poit is already reviewing his decision, then he asks him a simple question as though it's just a matter of common sense. And Poit agrees. Kieran Reid does not, no matter what his terrifying thick smile that's half customer services, half serial killer says. Contrast Warburton's actions the way Reid tries to change Poit's mind, just following him and shouting, Remain, Remain,
Remain. Okay.
Remain, more than I do when asked which way I voted in the EU referendum. And yet, despite all of this, Sam Warburton will never play rugby again. And that's sad because Sam Warburton was a great player, and seeing anyone have to give up what they loved is always sad. But it's also okay. Apparently injuries had got Warburton to the point whereby picking up his baby daughter was physically painful for him. And as much as I'd love to see Sam maraud towards a 3rd World Cup, I want Sam Warburton to get the chance to see his baby daughter grow up without his limbs being held on by bits of masking tape. I want Sam Warburton to get the chance to do all the things off limit to a professional athlete not called Curtly Beale. I want him to eat chips for breakfast and ruin his sleep schedule watching trash on Netflix. Because over the last 9 years, over 302 quiet games, Sam Warburton has made an awful lot of people very happy, and continues to make a great deal of people very proud. And as one of those people, I can't thank him enough. I'll never see Sam Warburton play rugby again, but if that means he gets to live a life that makes him happy, then that's more than okay with me. Hello, I'm back. I just want to quickly say thank you not just to that man, but to that men and women, as in yourselves, for watching that and for waiting so patiently for this next video. Thank you again to everyone that supported the channel on Patreon. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. I'm going to put more sort of Patreon exclusive goodies, including in the next week a poll for what the video after next should be on. I'll listen to you on that. Thank you to Rugby Warfare for supporting the channel. If anyone wants discounts on their top-end rugby goods, SQ20 is floating around here somewhere as well, their website address in the description. And also, thank you to the guy who, in the YouTube comments, called me his best friend. I hope you're alright. I hope you're doing okay. And I want to wish you all the best for your future endeavours.